Yo, what's going on everyone? Guiding Light here, and in this video, I'm going to break down all of the different classes here in Space Marines 2. So if you guys are new to the game or you're just trying to figure out exactly which class is for you, I'm going to show you guys which each class is best at. That way you can get a good understanding of which character you want to put your time into. Now, eventually, I do think that you should try out all of the characters and you're going to want to level them all up at least a bit to like maybe level 5 or level 8. But if you're just getting started and you want to figure out what your main character should be or where you want to put most of your time, I'm going to break down each class and explain the benefits of each one, especially as you begin to reach those higher and higher levels. Now, each class will have access to specific weapons. Most of them will be spread across, but there's certain classes that will only have access to certain weapons, certain melee weapons, and even certain heavy attacks and things. So let's start out with the tactical class. Now, this is going to be your most basic class, but it does offer some pretty unique benefits. This class, what it's going to be able to do is scan the environment for enemies. You can periodically throw out a UAV in a small area. What this will do is anyone that's in that small area, they're going to get increased damage to those enemies. So in certain aspects, this actually is a pretty good class. The reason why is because when going up against higher level enemies or big hordes, you can throw out this giant UAV, and if it's placed in the right area, it will highlight all the enemies. Then it will allow your team to basically do double damage to those enemies. So in that aspect, it's pretty good. Now, another part of this class that's pretty good is that you actually are versatile with it. It's going to have access to a lot of different weapons. So as we get in here, you're going to have a lot of different options to choose from when using this class. It's pretty versatile, and you also have access to a lot of the secondaries. Now, when it comes to the melee weapons, you're only going to have access to the chainsword, and you'll only have access to that one ability, which is the UAV scan. Now, you're also going to have this skill tree. The most important part, though, is going to be when it comes to this right column here. Now, there's some benefits that will help you and your team, and you can definitely create some pretty unique builds with this where you'll get more output for certain abilities. But the most important part is here in this last tier, because you're going to get unique abilities that are only classified for this character and that are really only going to help you. So once you get these unlocked, that's when you're going to be at your ultimate strength. But some of these will take up to 20 ranks in order to unlock on different characters. So that's the first character. Now, honestly, that class isn't that bad, but to be fair, I just don't think there's anything all that really special about it. You do get that UAV ability, which is going to help your team, so it's more of a support character. It definitely is fun to play and cool, but when you compare it to some of the other ones, in my opinion, some of the other ones are just more enjoyable to play. So let's move over to the Assault class. Now, this is by far my favorite class. I've played as all of them, and I do like all of them, for their own reasons, but this is my favorite class. This one does not have a primary weapon. It's only going to have access to a few of the secondaries, but what you are going to have access to is this Warhammer. Now, you will not have access to this on other characters, and in my opinion, this is one of the most fun weapons to use as it does have a nice AoE ability. It has a lot of range to it when you swing it around. Some pretty cool combos. And you're also going to have access to the Fist. So this is, again, something you won't have access to on the other characters. This is a melee-specific character, and that's why you don't really get a primary weapon. Now, you are going to have the pistol, but these melee weapons do so much damage and the combos are so fun. You really won't be using the weapon too much, but you can still use it. Now, another thing you're going to get is this jump pack. This is going to allow you guys to jump up in the air, dash around, do some pretty insane combos. And when you combo those dashes with the Warhammer or the Fist, it's really, really fun. Now, if you guys don't like, spamming your button mashing like that, and you are more of the person that likes to use, your weapon, or you'd like to charge things up, or you toss a lot of grenades and things like that, maybe not the class for you. But you do have some pretty cool abilities on this. I actually really enjoy it a lot. But to be fair, you're going to be mashing a lot of buttons between meleeing and trying to do the finisher attacks. So it's really cool to see that you can have this like brute heavy set character, but then every now and again you're going to be able to dash up and actually slam down as well. And it just makes for some crazy combos because after slamming down, you're almost guaranteed to have that execution as well. And it's really good for clearing out, big mobs and things like that. Whereas the UAV, comparison to the last class, like the UAV, it's going to mark everyone. It's going to make it easier to take them down because of the additional damage. But this one just takes them down right away, whereas the other one's more of a support for your team itself. Now, just like the other classes, you are going to have access to the specific skill tree where everything is going to be moderately improved. If you take a look at the far right end, this is where you're going to get the most benefit out of these perks is when you get to these higher and higher levels. And it will definitely help when you're trying to take on those higher difficulty enemies. In my opinion, I think this is going to be one of the most popular classes. But in terms of trying to beat the highest level mission, I don't think you're ever going to be able to do it with just running 3 of these. It's great to have one on your team, but once we get into some of the other characters, you'll see the benefits of definitely running some of those as well. So, my opinion, the most fun character to run is Assault, but there's some of all the other classes are pretty insane as well. So let's go and get in to the next class. Here's a look at the weapons you'll have access to on the Vanguard class. Not as many as the rest, but still some special weapons that you're going to have access to. You're also going to be able to heal yourself and things like that with these weapons. When it comes to the melee, you will have access to this short sword. This is basically just like the chain sword, but it's just a bit faster and you can do different combos with it as well. This when it comes to the secondary, nothing too crazy. But what you will get is this grappling hook. Now, at first, it doesn't seem that crazy, but you'll very quickly we'll take it in here and you'll see what you can do with it. You can take out massive swarms of enemies with just simply one use. And on top of that, just like the assault class we were just talking about, it offers that mobility and the ability to combo the grappling hook with an execution. So you can grapple in to a really strong enemy and they're going to get stunned and you can pretty much immediately execute them. So it definitely is good for clearing out mobs and things like that, but it's very similar to the assault class just without the jetpack. So instead of the jetpack, you're going to get that grappling hook. Now, very quickly, let's move into the sniper class. The sniper class is going to be in its own league, to be honest with you. It's going to have access to its own specialized set of weapons. Now, some of these weapons get pretty insane. I'm not going to spoil them for you, but yeah, they get pretty insane. Now, obviously, when it gets to the sniper class, it's going to be for a specific person. Like, not everyone's going to like running snipers, having that bolt action weapon and things like that. But it is cool to run, and I think it's going to be a little bit underrated. After having a little bit of time on the sniper class, I came to find out just how good it really is. So if you already have 2 other people on your team that are going to be really good at clearing out mobs and the additional enemies, if you are the sniper on your team, you can take out the really high level elite enemies extremely quickly. And it's not like you have to sit back and camp either. As you can see here, the sniper class is quite agile. You're going to be able to zoom in with the scope, so you don't actually have to get very close to the enemies. And if you want to get close, you're still going to have the ability to have the sword. So it's not like you're strictly restricted to sniping. You can actually still run and gun and be pretty aggressive with it as well because you have access to that melee weapon. Now, like I said, guys, I did start out on Assault. It is pretty fun because of the jetpack and all the crazy abilities. But in my opinion, I think once I'm done with that, I'm going to be maining the sniper class. Now, the quick scoping, not that it's pretty good. It's not all sluggish like other games. The aim assist isn't overbearing. I actually really enjoy the sniping. And once you get some of those higher level weapons without spoiling anything, you can really devastate those elite enemies. Now, when it comes to the perks, now you really only get this invisibility to start out with. It's not bad. It's going to keep you from taking damage and it's cool. But in my opinion, I wish could switch it up for something else down the road. But it's definitely not a bad ability to have because you're guaranteeing that you're not going to take damage. And then there's perks that once you're invisible, you can do additional damage outputs. You can hang out in the back. If there's a boss that spawns in, you can go invisible, maybe even take them out in one shot with the right setup. Now, if we get into the heavy set, this is actually, again, sort of a class that's going to be for special type of person. Now, you do have access to this plasma pistol, though, which can say is extremely overpowered. Those plasma weapons, especially when going up against bosses, guys, are insane. So you're going to have access to the plasma primary. Like, this class does a lot of damage. It's a really good class. It just might not be for me, personally, because it does not have the things that I like. Now, it does not have a melee weapon, and it does not have the mobility that I like to see. However, this class I think is going to be extremely important because if you ever want to go into those ruthless level activities or those highest level activities, you can see here, you're going to have access to this bubble. This is sort of like the tank class. Now, you're also going to have access to some pretty insane weapons on this class. As you can see there, I just sort of had like a firing shockwave weapon. You can switch between miniguns. Like, there's a lot of crazy high level support weapons that you can use here. You can also pop the bubble to help out your team. They can stand behind you and do pretty crazy damage as well. And overall, it's a great class. It's just for a very specific set of players. You're not going to be able to run and gun, and you're not going to be super agile. So you do have to be a support type of person or a person that loves to play as a tank. Now, one thing I can say is it does have this really sick grenade launcher. This is a plasma grenade launcher as well. Like I was saying, guys, all the plasma weapons are extremely overpowered. I'm not trying to like spoil or ruin the game or tell you guys what to run or anything like that. But I can tell you guys, when I ran a plasma weapon versus, the lead weapons, whatever you want to call the actual normal guns, especially when going up against bosses, guys, these plasma weapons do almost triple the amount of damage, especially against the bosses. So just a suggestion, maybe test it out next time you're going up against one of the bosses just to see how crazy they are. Now, I had almost forgot to include the Bulwark, but this class is actually by far one of my favorites as well. I've actually put the most time into this class. And this is actually one of the best overall characters because you can do support for your team. You can rush up on your own and do pretty crazy damage by yourself. You have access to some insane combos. Like the whole class is really great, and you're going to have the shield as well. Now, the one downside to this class is that you definitely have to do a lot of button mashing if that's something that can annoy you. And eventually, and you're also not going to have, a primary weapon. So you have access to the pistol and this sword, which you don't get on other characters, and you're going to have the fists as well. So this class is great. I have a lot of fun running it, and I'm going to show you guys some gameplay of it. Like I said, though, the only downside is that you're kind of forced to melee only, which can eventually kind of seem like you're just button mashing around. But overall, it's a great class to run. It's very fun. And then that special ability is that flag or that banner. Now, I've had some pretty insane times in this class, and I think once you get to the higher level difficulties, that this is going to be one of the most crucial classes to run, especially if you're trying to get like to the maximum difficulty. The reason why is because when you pop this iron banner, this banner barricade, what it does is it automatically starts to regenerate your shield. It lasts for about 20 to 30 seconds. So you can lock down an entire area, or if the boss is attacking you, you can just stand in that rally or in that banner, and you can just continuously regenerate your shield for you and your teammates. So it's a really, really great class. It does massive damage output while using the sword. But like I said, it's just the fact that you don't have a gun at all. You do have access to the pistol, but now the good thing is that you actually have access to the plasma pistol. And I'm going to show you guys some gameplay of it right now and show you why it's so good, this plasma pistol. So this class is absolutely devastating. It does massive DPS between the sword, the plasma pistol, and the abilities and the banner. It's probably honestly one of the strongest classes. I'm sure the heavy class is going to do more DPS, but but doesn't have the mobility or the sword output that this one has. So I do genuinely think that this is probably the best class overall, but it's not necessarily my favorite. I'm gonna max out the level of it though, because when it comes into those maxed out level missions, those max difficulties, I definitely want to have be running this class so I can support myself and my teammates at the same time. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Just sort of a beginner's guide, quick little overview of each character in case you guys are still on the fence about which one you really want to play as if you haven't even started playing yet, or maybe if you just still want to figure out which one you want to put the most time into, because they do take a couple hours to level up, maybe a day to max out each one. But here's some quick gameplay of that plasma rifle, guys. Absolutely insane. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll be making a bunch more guides, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.